Subpersonalities. I couldn't forget about the suicide for a long time. At such a young age, kill yourself without weighing all the consequences. How is he now? Does he sit alone, building a sad world around him? Or is it in a common world with other people waiting for a new incarnation? He should have had enough energy for a long time, enough to rest and think. I must have too much of his energy in me to find myself thinking about him so often. We need to meet. Before I went to sleep, I stood on the balcony and tried to imagine that I was in a bad way and I wanted to kill myself. You need to tune into this wave, otherwise I will not be able to reach the right person with my consciousness. I intensely drew images of various disasters and destruction in my mind's eye. So, great, now you need to visualize that you decided to commit suicide. I imagined myself climbing over the railing and falling down. So, in this point there must be a strong fear of death. My body began to tremble. Imagine that I reach the ground and crash. Well, the soul soars up. Alright, let's go up. Up at the moment when I imagined that I was flying over the private balcony on which I was standing, something really flew out of me. My vision went dark, and I gripped the railing. A cold sweat broke out all over the body. What the hell? It's all fun and games until... What's it? I couldn't understand what was happening to me. The body trembled, and the knees gave way. So, get off the railing and go to the apartment. Come on. My stomach was very tight, and it was extremely difficult to control my muscles. Okay, well, I told myself. I stepped over the threshold and made my way to the sofa. You need to open a flow, you need to open a flow. I tried to sit up, and the third time I did it. Leaning against the back of the sofa, I focused on the red line. After a few minutes, I was able to open a tiny line of transcendental energy. It felt as if someone had torn away from me a fairly large part of my energy, my soul. But how? I sat for half an hour, and my inner vision started to come back. This is already better. I was concerned about the dark lines that appeared in my arms and legs. I don't know what it is. Looking closer, I realized that these are my own meridians, but for some reason, just an hour ago, they were full of energy, and now they are not. Where does it all go? It was not possible to deal with the problem that evening. I was terribly sleepy. In the morning, still suffering from severe indisposition, I went to make breakfast. Pancakes, tea and condensed milk. But I couldn't eat anything. The smell of fresh pancakes made me sick. After drinking only water, I went to take care of the child and deal with the current household chores. I was called from work and asked to make a contract. At this time, I always switched to one of the subpersonalities and conducted a business conversation. One of them had a lot of masculine qualities and business acumen. It was more convenient to conduct business. This time it didn't work out. Enda, that was the name of my subpersonality, was absent, and there was no psychological transition. I thought I was overworked, but later I realized that it was my subpersonality that left me that evening on the balcony, part of my own energy. Therefore, there was a strange weakness, a slight nausea, and the channels on the arms and legs began to glow dark. For several days I could not eat at all. I even stuffed food into myself by force, but everything went back. Then I calmed down and let my body decide for itself whether it needs food or not. Skills began to return, but without a clear switch to subpersonalities. There used to be a clear outline between them, but now it's gone. This other quality has become just a part of my character, that's all. It was very interesting to visit my parents in the old house. The feeling of this atmosphere was more vivid, similar to what I experienced in childhood. It's like it hasn't been years. My feelings, those that were with me before the first subpersonality, returned, and everything began to sparkle with other colors. Then, when I reanalyzed how to live in the village with my parents, I realized all the advantages and disadvantages of this life. The feelings seemed to calm down and no longer disturbed me. The attitude towards me in the work team has changed, and I have found new ways to solve problems. Now I was not going like a tank, but I was using the features of my feminine impersonation. All the separated character traits began to coalesce. I became more flexible and resistant to stress. There were new personality traits appeared that were completely new to me. It was as if the subpersonalities developed to some extent, and then stopped in their emotional development. When they accidentally left, I started to catch up on this development, and in a few years I overcame what other people overcome in lifetime. I also acquired my first subpersonality by accident. When I was 11 years old, an argument broke out in our yard between a group of kids. I was in one of the groups. Stepping forward, I argued my point with fervor. The second group had no other arguments but to fight. I was kicked hard. This kick sent me into a state of shock I had never fought before. Automatically, I pinned him down, twisting his arm behind his back and grabbing his hair from the back. The boy was much bigger than me and did not expect such fighting techniques from a little girl. I didn't expect it from myself. Since then it's been like two people living in my body, I and the other self. It wasn't a subsettler, it was my part. Later I learned that this happens when the volume of information from the spirit is very large. It comes with the personality. With the person we were before, when we accumulated this experience. The second subpersonality I created already consciously, in contrast to the first. It was a feminine essence. This is done quite simply. You need to call yourself by a different name and promise yourself to become different. Then, in certain situations where you need to change behavior, you mentally say that it is not you who is doing it, but another person. You think over how it should act, and all the time when you are in the role of your subpersonality, you act only as you thought up. At some point, you will no longer understand where you are real and where you are not. You may even think that you are going crazy. This is the very moment when the second dantian begins to divide and a second is formed in it. Not like in a nesting doll, one in one, but equal in size. If you are a seer, you can see it. I feel that when you switch to another identity, you can easily do something different from what you are used to. We usually divide our fields of activity. My job was under the control of a male subpersonality, and my home was under the control of a female subpersonality. I could also create a personality that could communicate with someone who annoyed me or with whom I just couldn't find a common language. While I was forced to contact this person, the subpersonality was formed from the main personality, and when it became unnecessary, I dissolved it. I was very good at communicating with my own subpersonalities, alternately putting them on like masks one by one and using them to sort out arguments in matters where I couldn't immediately make up my mind. Sometimes I had problems with a stronger subpersonality, when I wanted to act out of proportion to my size. So, once a thief in the subway pulled out my wallet when I was passing through the double doors to the Winter Street. He was both bigger and taller than me. I turned around sharply, hit the bridge of his nose with my fingernails, and pulled my own wallet out of the thief's pocket while he stood there in a state of shock, then calmly turned and walked away. For this episode, I scolded myself for a long time. A broken nose was not worth the purse. I couldn't frighten anyone with my height or weight, but for some reason I kept forgetting about it. It's as if I've had 100 victories in such stories. I've been searching for information about subpersonalities for a long time. I managed to dig up a little. Remember the movie, Crying Freeman? According to the story, the young man was implanted in the subconscious with the idea that he would kill on orders. And he really became a killer. He was called and told a certain phrase, after which he obeyed implicitly and did everything that he was ordered. The film ends with the character getting out of control. In fact, he was implanted with stripped down subpersonality, which came into operation after a certain audio message. Many people have heard stories about assassins of presidents and spies who were implanted with subpersonalities with certain tasks. The main personalities of the people did not know about these tasks, so the criminals could not be declassified. If it's possible to make a subpersonality in another person, of course, this will damage the main personality, but still, then why not in yourself? You can. I do not understand why in psychology this is not used as a means of therapy, when the main, damaged personality can be replaced with a new one, grown already consciously. In Buddhism and Qigong, subpersonalities are cultivated for specific purposes. If you look at the paintings in Datsun, you will definitely find several images with heads placed on the heads of gods and saints. Heads can be several or one. These are subpersonalities, although in Qigong they are called doubles. If we take a closer look at such a drawing, we will see that the heads on top are depicted with different emotions. This is a hallmark of subpersonality. Since your personality is divided into parts, the subpersonality after the separation takes away part of your character and strengthens it over time. You get skewed by some trait of character. Naturally, your personality will not develop normally. For example, you have a desire for beauty and accuracy. This trait of character is formed in your subpersonality. What awaits you after that? Strong pedantry in everything when this person comes forward, and the absence of such aspirations when other subpersonalities come forward. Usually after this, another, wild subpersonality is born, who can eat from unwashed dishes, do not shave for months, etc. Why did Buddhism need such a strange form of ascent through the stages of mastery? Buddhism is a religious egregore with special batteries, people who are engaged in energy practices. This means that there may be more energy in them than the egregore can digest, and then people will get out of control. And if there are many subpersonalities in a person, then they all accumulate this energy in themselves and keep it in the body. The spirit receives very little, which means that the egregore can be perfectly placed on the channel to the spirit. In Qigong, there are specially grown subpersonalities, and there can be a lot of them, it seems, up to 81. Yes, we have such a protective mechanism, given to us by nature, but to do subpersonalities just like that, and not to save yourself from something or heal a crippled soul, just absurd. Later, when I worked with people who for some reasons created subpersonalities, doesn't matter quickly or slowly, I was convinced that they leave sooner or later. For some, it's just as abrupt as for me, all at once, and for others, gradually. One person said that 5 subpersonalities in turn left him just in several months, and each time it was a small tragedy based on the qualities of the personality that formed its basis. It was perceived as a small death. I still couldn't reach the suicided man with my mind. I didn't have enough energy for a long time, and then I just stopped thinking about it. I had to recover energetically from the departure of subpersonalities for several months, and then for about a year I taught myself to be whole. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe to the channel. All have a good mood and bye.